Hey everybody, this is DM Mike, and this is the first official campaign diary for Rise of Tiamat. We just recently started playing. Matter of fact, we've already played 2 weeks, so we're actually going into the third week here, not this Friday, but next. And so I'm a little late to recording. A couple reasons for that. First of all, I was waiting for a brand new camera to come in. That camera did come in, and I tested it, and it was awful. It just didn't really record really well, and it was high contrast, and things looked gritty and not focused, so it kind of delayed a lot of my recording process. And two, I wanted to do more green screen. As you can see, there's absolutely nothing behind me but a really white wall. But I don't have my green screen up because I've kind of ran out of room, to put up all my lights to do all that stuff. It will surely be remedied, as we go further and further into the campaign. But right now, I got to just work with what I got. So I apologize for the delay because we are going on week 3 of actually playing. Now, before I begin this campaign diary, look, a lot of things changed in my game. And I'm sure as you a DM, this has probably happened to you. But first of all, I lost 2 players in between the transition between Horror Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. No fault of anybody. It's just life changed, jobs changed. So their Friday nights were not available. So I lost Mortimer and Althea, one of these sides here. So they had to be replaced. And Rise of Tiamat kind of got delayed for about 5 weeks. Let me tell you, as a DM, I know it's supposed to be a campaign diary, but just being brutally honest, as a DM, when you lose people that are really, really important to the campaign, it really just feels like a kick in the gut, just like the wind is knocked out of your sails. It's like someone punched you in the gut or kicked, either one. Both would hurt, but that's what it felt like. And there was a moment there where I almost did not want to run Rise of Tiamat, not because I was being stubborn like a baby or anything like that, but I just felt, I don't know, empty. Like I wanted to go through, with these 5 people. So I stepped back from that, came out of that kind of little dark area, and decided, no, we're going to push forward. We're going to keep going. And we had to put a search out to replace Althea and Mortimer. And we ended up finding 2 more people who've been really just a great addition to the group. One of the ladies here plays a druid, so she kind of, I'll put a picture up here. I think her name is Ithriel. Oh, I hope I got that right. I'm going to check my little, my cheat sheet. Ithriel? Oh, she'll kill me. She'll probably stab me in the neck next time I see her if I've gotten it wrong. But Ithriel and Lucius, they're the 2 people that replaced Mortimer and Althea. But Ithriel is a druid, so she kind of we got one druid replaced with another druid, so kind of a wash. And then we got Lucius, who's playing a paladin. And so now we actually have a tank, so that kind of changed the dynamic of the group a little bit. Instead of having 2 ranged characters with our thief and our ranger. So that was a significant hurdle for me personally as a DM to go through. So what are the one things we did? This campaign diary only covers the kind of the opening epilogue adventure where you're really spending time catching up. And I don't mean just us talking at the table, but the actual characters in game catching up with one another and introducing the new people. And I found myself in a similar situation as I did with Horde of the Dragon Queen, that you have to kind of have, which I suggest you do, have an epilogue adventure. And where they, the characters originally started in Kingston, and from Kingston they went to Greenest, and that's when all hell broke loose and they dived into the book. Well, the same thing applied here. The problem being I had 3 people from the original adventure, but 2 people who were just coming in, and it felt ridiculous to try to start from chapter 1, interrogating the 3 other people for the council sessions, and not really engaging and having the other 2 people in. It would have been boring for them, okay? Just absolutely boring. But beyond that, I didn't want to start off with just chapter 1. I feel like it's just a tip to you, and I'm going to be a little redundant when I do my next video, which will be the chapter tips video. My advice to you is have an epilogue adventure where you're catching up with the in-game characters. What are they doing? And I think it's a good question. About 4 weeks out before we played, I sent all my players private messages through our Facebook group and said, hey, what's your character doing? They're in Waterdeep. They've, obviously this group has been through Horde of the Dragon Queen. This group is kind of new. They're coming in, but things have happened. What are they doing? So it's a good, and
Daddy!
what they tell you is what you can build. It's the bones of the adventure. You can kind of create that epilogue adventure just from that. It's really, really resourceful, what they give you. And also you can burn out downtime days too. you can have a lot of time pass between these two adventures. So it's really advantageous to ask what they're doing and remind them about their downtime days. Burn them off, learn new languages, new weapons. I had a lot of people actually this time looking for magical items, and I was okay with that. So anyway, the Epilogue adventure. The Epilogue adventure was based on everything they gave me, including background stories, and of course the questions that I asked. So we have 5 new people. I could put them all up here or somewhere here where it makes sense. And I had to start with really kind of introducing each character at the table in some respects, just bringing them into the adventure. But I think I found a clever way of doing this where it wasn't too boring for other people. For instance, let's just start with the 2 new players. Okay, so I've got Ithriel and Lucius. And I actually started off the adventure with combat, just right into it. Ithriel was camping near Waterdeep, and not lucky enough, unfortunately for her, the cult has now started hiring bounty hunters. They know exactly who these 5 people are now, or for at least for the most part. They're hunting them down because of all the events that happened in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. Well, I had a case of mistaken identity. They found Ithriel thinking she was Althea, the character who couldn't be in the adventure anymore. And Ithriel has a little, I'll put him up here, a little fae that goes along with her named Pebble. And of course the bounty hunters saw Druid. She was in Waterdeep. She had a fae. She fit the description. And so we had a fight right there where the bounty hunters tracked her down, in a case of mistaken identity. But when you start a combat with 1 player, usually that means, well, everybody else has got to sit around and just wait for it. It might be engaging and fun for about 10 minutes, but, combat can drag. So what I decided to do to kind of spice that up a little bit, as soon as the combat encounter happened, I handed everybody else the bounty hunter stats, and I had them fight. So my players were fighting against one another. Most of the other players being the NPC enemies, and Ithriel fighting for herself. And so it was kind of weird. I just stepped back and just watched things happen. And of course, you don't want to kill your characters from day 1. So they were leveled a little bit lower to make it fair. 3-on-1, it's pretty tight. And so they were all fighting and stuff. And then I had Lucius, who was also traveling to Waterdeep. Did I say Waterdeep? Waterdeep on his horseback, came and saw this encounter. So now that engaged him. And so he came in, he saw a woman being attacked by 3 people. And so he came in there and fought, and everybody at the table, sooner or later, was fighting each other. And of course, that kind of finished off. It took a good chunk of time there. And then I let them role play for a little bit, Lucius and Ithriel, as they're kind of discussing a little bit of their backstories and why they're going to Waterdeep. And so they kind of team up together and head that direction, right? So that's how I kind of brought those 2 new people in, but also, allowed the other participants at the table, characters or players, to participate in that kind of opening role-playing moment, right? But now, you see, I've got these 3 other people that I've got to work with, right? And so I remember I started with the 2 new people, and then I shot right to Pax the Cleric. Now, if you remember from Hoard of the Dragon Queen, she is a Doom Cleric, Doom Guide, and Doom Cleric. What would a Doom Cleric do? But a Doom Guide, and fights for Kellum Vor and whatnot. And she, in her private messages back to me, said, look, most likely my character will be in the temple studying Tiamat, studying the cult, doing whatever she can to figure out more about the cult of the dragon. Perfect. Great. I had her sitting in a kind of this fountain had blue and silver water. She was completely nude. All her armor and effects were away. She was surrounded by priests who had veils over their faces, and she was in a healing pool because of all the events that happened in Hoard of the Dragon Queen. And now this is not canon. This is not something you're going to find in 5th edition, but I just felt like, yes, the Doom Guides are powerful. They can go out and fight the undead, but they have to cleanse themselves eventually. Because of just the disease and the taint and all the stuff that comes off the undead, like these dark arcanic energies, I felt like, and this is just something I made up, you need to go back and purify yourself at a temple at some point. We're talking like, it could take a year or more, but it doesn't have to be like every 2 weeks. But you had to come back. And so that's what we kind of focused on, that she was purifying herself. And I had the priest kind of walking around, and they talked about sacred geometry, how her body and soul and mind were kind of out of alignment because of all the things that affected her during, the first major book, and how her weapon was kind of acting suspiciously. And I don't want to get too much of that because that will come later in the campaign. So we kind of role played all that out. And so we finished with those two people, the new people. We hit PAX, and then I went to Thimbraeus, and his private message, he talked about how he just wanted to hang around nobility, be the charlatan, go out there and pilfer whatever he could, but also keep his ear to the ground, listening for rumors, and, pretty much steal whatever he could. And so we role played that out. And he went to some noble party, and he was like right in the middle of this party when we started. And, he pilfered a few things, and then he met his mentor. Cat is his name. I've used him in several adventures. And Cat knew, the Thieves Guild knew, that Thimbraeus would be called to the council. And this was a prime opportunity for them because they wanted intel. Thimbraeus's leader is Zaylan Maw, the lady in red, who came up several times in the first adventure, maybe 2 or 3 times. Storm had an audience with her in a carriage one time. And again, there she just wanted information. Didn't want anything else from him but information. And that's the new currency. If you have a Thief Guilds in your game, this is what I'm kind of doing right now with Horde of Demons, Dragon Queen, and Rise of Tiamat, is that the Thieves Guild, this one in particular, is getting away from just stealing gold and different things like that, but now information. And what the cult is doing, and this war has become profitable just in the information trade, right? So this is what she wanted. So Cat meets with Thimbraeus, and he gives him, first of all, an attachment to his gun, so he could convert it to a gun to a rifle, and it had different and new stats, and also gave him a little tiny vial. And in the vial was a snake made of metal. And this snake, when he brought it to the council, he put it under the table, it would come out, link itself to maybe some kind of decoration or table leg underneath, and just kind of like a chameleon, camouflage and go silent. And it was just a listening device. And that's what they wanted. That was just some of the side plots that were going on. So that was Thimbraeus. And finally, we had Storm. And his character introduction, when we talked about what his character would be doing, he would be returning to his tribe. He became chieftain. He talks to his shaman, trying to figure out, okay, what should I do now? They told him, yes, you're chieftain, but you need to go back and fight this evil, right? So he returns to Waterdeep, and he wants to fight in the arenas. So that's where we started with Storm. We had this huge arena. I'll put a little image up here. You can see it in Tabletop Simulator. I went with a 2D flat image here, but also I tried to create the density of Waterdeep with all the houses all around. Now, this was a fun little thing to do because here again, here's the DM dilemma, right? This is his backstory. This is the things he was doing in Waterdeep, and we want to have this combat. But what do you do with the other players? Well, in this case, it actually turned out to be a lot of fun. At least for me, it was. Storm enters the arena, and there's 4 other gladiators, and I just handed out gladiator sheets to everybody at the table. And it was actually kind of fun. People were fighting and killing each other as gladiators. And I think that combat maybe took me 30, 45 minutes, something like that. Maybe an hour, I don't know, but I think it was less than that. We had people running all over the arenas. And they all started out with no weapons. So I just had the weapons kind of spread out across the arena. And as the gladiator would come to the weapon, I would hand him a sheet that gave him, the stats for that weapon. But there came a problem that I just made up on the spot. Pretty early on, someone was killed, right? So I think it was Lucius's character, his gladiator, was killed. And then I thought to myself, well, shoot, now he's got to sit there and wait while everybody else, we don't know how long this might take. So immediately I looked at him and said, hey, let's look up giant crocodile stats. You are now a crocodile. And that kind of helped the downtime of other players, right? So if your gladiator died, then you became a crocodile. And you would still be going. You still had your same initiative. You would just go, when it was your turn, if your gladiator was dead, well, you're a crocodile, and you moved to crocodile, and you attacked like a crocodile. I don't know. It was fun. Pretty inventive at the table, if I may say so. But everybody kind of attacked each other, and of course, Storm won. Story-wise, this was causing Leoslin to have a fit. He hated this, especially with Storm going out there and risking his life. One big thing was, at least that I kind of pushed in this campaign, at the very beginning at least, was Waterdeep and the Lords assigned details to everybody. At least the three that remained from the original crew. They were afraid of assassination, so they had guards kind of following everybody. And Leoslin just hated this fact that Storm was walking into Arena risking his life when he had valuable intel. He'd been exposed to the cult. He knew a lot about it, and yet he was throwing caution to the wind and fighting all these people. So in character, it's freaking Leoslin out. But by the end of the night, everybody gets their scrolls one way or another. I won't go into details how that happened. Gets their scrolls, and the last thing we did, the end of the night, was everybody in their separate locations. Not everybody was together, kind of just popping open their seals, and everybody just kind of vanishing. And that's where we ended it. I kind of felt like by that time we had played, a good 3.5 hours. We kind of hit pretty late at night, and I actually wanted to keep playing, and the players wanted to keep playing, but I felt like the council session really needed its own time, because that was a lot. And speaking, backing up a little bit too, Lucius and Ithriel teamed up. They went to Waterdeep, and now they had this dilemma of trying to find Leoslin. They ended up hooking up with one of the factions there, Order of the Gauntlet, with Onthar. And from there, he parsed their story, got an understanding where they came from, realized they were two ambassadors coming from the High Forest and El Terrell, where the cult had attacked. And so he let them in on the secret meeting. So basically, that's how we brought everybody together. We still focused. It was one of those games where the spotlight was on everybody individually, but then also kind of spread around as we tried to do some combat scenarios and whatnot. And that was it. So it was an entertaining night. I had actually a pretty good time. I wasn't too sure how it was all going to go. Sometimes I experiment on things, and I just sometimes you start a game, you're not sure you have all the confidence. Like, oh, I hope this works. You pray that it works. And I think it turned out really well. And the new people that came, I think, are working really, really well with us. Everybody's meshing really, really good. They're actually really, really great peeps, great characters, great players. And I think it's going to work out really, really well. I'm kind of looking forward to see where this goes now as we go deeper into the story. So right now we've already done chapter 1. That'll be another campaign diary, and I'll discuss how I kind of ran that. And then we're now into chapter 2. I kind of feel like things are moving really fast. I don't know why, but things are moving pretty fast. But anyway, guys, I think that's all I got. Chapter tips to come, and then I'm going to start focusing on the radio dramas, the small ones that I sent out to all the players, so you have those too. And currently I only have about 2 story radio dramas or cutscenes ready to go, so they'll be coming up next as well. So, a few more videos to come. And of course, chapter tips. So I think that's probably the big video. And sooner or later, I'll get green screen and things will be back to normal. All right, guys, that's it. That's all I got for you. The next campaign diary will cover chapter 1. All right, guys, thanks. I'll see you in the next one.